How old are you in your head?
In dog years.
How old are you in your head?
Man, that's a good question too.
Turkey bacon's full of them.
In my head, well, if I've had something to drink, I feel like I'm about 28. But when I wake up in the morning, I feel about 59.
This is a day we've all been waiting for. We are like, I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm kind of a Lions fan in here, and a lot of it has to do with this guy. So it's good to have Dan Campbell on the podcast. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. We start the show with a layup line. It's basically like we pick a song to get the party started, to get the people at home woke up for the podcast. We know you're a Skynyrd fan. Okay, so we need you to pick a Leonard Skynyrd song, maybe your favorite, to be today's layup line.
Oh my God! Well, when you said that, the first thought was Freebird, but that's more of a let's calm it down a little bit. Let's.
It's pretty good for it. It heats up after a little bit.
It does. It does. So I would have to say that would be the first one I thought of when you said that.
Okay.
So.
Okay, good. We'll go Freebird today. My kids love Freebird. Every time we get in the car, it's free, and they're 4 and 7, so they're off to a good start. So we got Freebird for layup line today. Coach, I got a lot of questions for you, but is this true? This is one of my favorite things I read about you, that you said you would live in an RV if you didn't have a family.
That is true. That is true. It's a very simple way to live, and it's easy. It just is. And look, I said this before. It's not like I'm roughing it. You know what I was in before. I had a stove, man. I had a little shower. I had a bed. I had satellite TV. I had my little grill that I could just roll out. My lawn chairs. But yeah, man, I absolutely would.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up a Thor 4 Winds tomorrow, Dan.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so 24-footer. I'm psyched. And we share that fraternity because I absolutely would live in a mobile home if I didn't have a family. My wife knows it, and sometimes I think about maybe just scooting off for a couple of weeks. You just got done with a great draft, man. I know running back's not a position that some people value very highly, but you guys, the way your run game is such a weapon, so well coached. Shout out to Hank Fraley, my guy, and a great offensive line there. What goes into making that decision to take Gibbs at 12? And were you worried that somebody was going to leapfrog you?
Yeah, look, we, Brad and myself, along with the personnel department coaches, we really liked Gibbs early in the process.
Yeah.
He really stood out to us. And when we saw him, we thought of him, it wasn't running back that we saw weaponry. He reminded me of a lot of AK, certainly. Yeah. When I was at the Giants, we had played with Tiki Barber, in this kind of mold of these backs that can do more than just carry the ball, and so that's how we thought of him. And the other thing about him that was unique was, when you think about how he meshes and the fit that he'll have with Montgomery, man, with Dave Montgomery, and this is very much a two-back system in the fact that we're going to ask guys to do what they do well, and they're both going to be a big part of this offense. Now, I know Montgomery's definitely going to be, and I would assume Gibbs is. That's why we drafted him. But he's going to have to earn his touches too now.
Yeah.
But, man, we just thought it was a good fit. And, yes, I was very much worried that somebody was going to get him. We were worried somebody was going to trade up and get him, if not just take him once we slid back to 12.
How about the linebacker y'all took, Campbell, out of, I think, Iowa? He looks like a bit of a throwback, like he can play blocks and he's big and physical. I know that position's changing. I was just talking to Brandon Bean yesterday about that, and I know they value linebackers up in Buffalo. What goes into spending that kind of capital on a guy who can play in the box, and how does a guy improve where he can get out in a matchup with maybe your other first-round pick? Because I know he's going to get some good work against Gibbs early on in his career.
Yeah, look, Campbell, he was another guy we had it rated very high, and it wasn't. We didn't feel like it was a real deep class of linebackers, and we certainly wanted to add competition in that room. we like where Alex Anzalone's at, and we're glad to have him back. Rodriguez, for a young buck, man, really came on.
Love him.
And Barnes is continuing to grow. But we felt like we needed to add some competition in there. And look, Campbell was the highest rated player we had left on the board at that point in the draft, and we really liked him. And I think what it was is, you know what kind of football they play at Iowa and what they're playing against. But man, he is a big, long athlete. I mean, this guy can run. I mean, his change of direction is better than I think a lot of people realize. And really, what it is, he just hasn't dealt with a ton of. All right, here you go, man. You're matched up in coverage. That'll be an element where he's gonna need to develop, continue to come along. But we all felt like it's something he's gonna be able to do because he's gotten his body.
Yeah, and you mentioned Malcolm Rodriguez. That guy, we're big fans of his from Hard Knocks, and then watching him get some time early. I think it spoke to what y'all thought of him being a late round pick and then getting those kind of snaps early. Like Hard Knocks, was that tough, for you being a younger head coach, managing the distractions and that sort of thing, or was it a breeze, and do people make too much of it?
Yeah, well, I'll be the first to say I was not really excited to have them before they got here. I was, and I tried not to be a turd about it, but I know there was days where Shannon, God bless her, she handled it well, but I'll say this, man, they're professionals. They did a great job. And I mean, within about 2 or 3 days, you don't even really realize they're around. They're part of the scenery. And they did a heck of a job. So, we listen, it was good. They did what they needed to do. We did what we needed to do, and it worked out.
Yeah, that's how we found out that you needed some Copenhagen. So are you loaded up? Are you good?
I'm pretty good. I try to stay at least 4 cans ahead, but believe me, I'll never turn down free Copenhagen. So
okay, we'll keep the care packages coming. And this is one for me, man, because I had to give up coffee. It just made me too jittery. But when I played, I'd have like 5 cups a day, especially when I played in New England. I think it was like 7 cups a day because they don't have any windows in that fucking facility. And, Bill's got those Sean Payton meetings going. I'm wondering, how many milligrams of caffeine do you think Dan Campbell takes in a day?
Man, I couldn't tell you. A lot more than I should. I do know that, man. I'll start the day off with those 2 big old cups, those venti cups, and
Ventis.
and they're double shotted, and then I still drink. I'll drink throughout the day, So after that, maybe an hour later, I'll go. Actually, the best thing for me is when the season gets here in practice. Like this time of year, the players, they're lifting, that's great, but we really don't have them right now. So it's just an endless amount of coffee throughout the day. It's ridiculous,
Y'all should put a Starbucks
somebody's
in
just
there.
going to find me on the floor, but
twitching. With the defensive backs this year, you guys loaded up. CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was a great player for my Birds last year, and Sutton, Mosley. You re-signed Moore, you re-signed Harris. And then Brian Branch, who's an in-division trade. Those are a little bit rare. How's that dance go when you go, call a division rival and say, hey, we'd like to move up?
Yeah, well, man, I think the days of, Brad, we talked about this, and, that was always a no-no. Man, you don't ever do that. You don't give any ammo back to your division opponent. But
yeah.
But I think, more than anything, it's about, listen, if it's a fair trade and you trust the partner that you're dealing with, as Brad did, then it's, it's worth it. I think if both sides win, what does it really matter? So I think that certainly we're a lot more open to that. We traded last year with Minnesota to come up and get Jameson Williams. So,
yep.
Brad's open to that. And, now there can be circumstances where it could be too rich, and you don't want to give too much to your division opponent. But listen, we're open to it, and to your point, man, to be able to obtain Branch, man, he's a heck of a player. I mean, this is one of the best tackling DBs. I would argue he was the best one this year, but he's one of the best I've seen in a long time. I mean, when he gets his hands on offensive players, receivers, backs, they're going to the ground. He is as sure tackler as you're going to find. And he's a ball hawk. He's got a nose for the football. So he's wired the right way. We were fired up to be able to acquire him. We thought he would have been gone by then. But it was too good to pass up. We had to go get him.
How about Jared Goff with the addition of Hendon Hooker? I feel like Jared Goff, from the little bit I've been around him and a lot of mutual teammates from LA, speak so highly of him. You can tell he seems like the right guy to bring in a rookie quarterback with, because he's going to have the right attitude and he's going to bring that guy along. What went into that thought process for y'all?
Yeah, we always, we did go into this offseason saying that we wanted to bring in some competition at quarterback. Yep. We didn't know exactly where that might be, who that would be at the time, but we did like Hooker. We knew he was coming off the injury, but there was something about him that was appealing. He's very mature. He looks the part. He's got a big arm. He's got to learn how to play in the NFL, but he's a pro now. And I like the fact that he was older. We all kind of like the fact he was older. I think you want your quarterback to be a little bit more mature. They got a lot on their plate. So, but to that point, to be able to get him where we did, we traded back twice and we were still able to acquire him. We felt like that was everything played out just the right way for us. We were excited. And to your point, yes, Goff is going to handle it well. I mean, he knew Brad had called him, and he's great. And he'll help this guy just learn and grow. And really, this is a redshirt year for him. He's got to get this leg right first, and then he'll learn. He'll learn under Jared, And then let's see what happens. If he can eventually become your two, or maybe down the road later on, it's more than that. But it's going to be a long time.
How important was keeping Ben Johnson around? I mean, I was so energized by that, rooting for you guys. And he's such a great coach, a young coach in the NFL. And I know he had maybe some opportunities, but he said, I'm staying here because we're building something and I love being here. Seems rare. I mean, how'd you feel when he made that call? Listen,
I was excited. And I told Ben I would do anything I could to help him get to the next level, to take that next step. As long as that's what he wanted. But I also made it very clear that I didn't want to lose him, So, I don't want to be that guy that ever felt like I was holding you back, but I wanted to help him. But, man, when he said that he was going to come back with us, I was ecstatic. Because anybody who's sat in this seat, I don't care what anybody says, man. The most important thing that a head coach does is hire his staff. And it's about your staff and the people around you, because without the right staff, you are nothing, in my opinion. At least I know for sure for me. You have to lean on those guys. And so be able to get him back is huge, man. He's a hard worker. He's creative. He's smart. He knows how to communicate. And he alleviates a lot of pressure on me. I sleep real good at night knowing that he's the head of that offense.
You won 8 of your last 10 down the stretch last year. I think all of America was rooting for you to get into the playoffs. Have you thought about how much you're going to reference, hey, guys, 8-2 last year? I know it's a different group, but the confidence that they gained to know that they do belong versus, hey, we got to turn the page. We got to earn it again this year. This is a new season, and we can't rest on anything we did the year prior.
Well, Bacon – that's calling me Bacon. Look, it's a great question because I would say both. I think you have to use both. I think we did some things the right way. We played the game a certain way. We were playing smart football. We took care of the football offensively. I mean, we led the league with the least amount of turnovers. And most of that happened in that 10-game stretch. And then defensively, we started getting takeaways. So that I don't care what team you are, that's always going to be the most important component is the takeaway ratio, turnovers, takeaways. So that's got to be a part of our DNA for sure. And I do think it's part of us, man. The core of this team has really been here for the last, 2 years, going on 3. The Taylor Decker and Ragnow, and then the young bucks that we got, Aleem McNeil and St. Brown, Sewell. And so, man, they understand where we've come from and all that we've had to go through. And, you talk about hard times, man. We were trying to fight our way out of everything, but the guys never quit swinging, and that's a credit to them. That's part of who they are, and we can never lose that, and we can never forget where we were at. Even last year, man, 1-6, man, you're counted out. Times are tough. It's not good, but the guys never gave in. They just kept going. So that's got to stay part of us. Now, the 8-2 stretch, that winning stretch down the, man, if we don't go back and get back to where we were and all the little things we did and the work that we put in, the detail that we put in to get back to that and then surpass it, then we'll never be better than we were. We'll have another 9-win season. We'll be average. And so we have to get to that point and then surpass it to get to where we want to go.
Well, teams got to learn how to win too, and some of that takes the losing and 1-6 start, but a lot of close games. And I just feel like as the season went on, you could see guys learning how to win. What goes into learning how to win for a team and learning how to finish?
Yeah, Coach Parcells used to say it to us all the time, and then Sean Payton said the same thing. But it's the only way to learn to win is to win. Like you have to get in those moments. And all the little things that you preach, about, man, now it's crunch time and the heat is truly on and everybody's watching it. And any play that is made, good or bad, is magnified times 10. And to understand, man, you got to revert back to the little things, the fundamentals, the details. Like your teammates got to be able to count on the fact that you're going to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Because really, that's what was going on with us early in the year. We had some guys that were making mistakes, and our more dependable players were trying to overcompensate.
Right.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to do my job and yours. And then what they did was put a stress on another teammate over here. And so we were able to get back to where, man, we gained some trust. Guys were doing it the right way, and and it paid dividends down the backstretch.
What changed for the defense, especially the defensive backfield? I know the kind of guy you are. It's probably hard to let people go, and I know Aubrey Pleasant, great coach, great guy, but sometimes you got to make changes. As a former player, knowing what goes into this business a little bit differently than maybe another head coach, how hard is it to let guys go and to make those calls? And then what happened once that defensive backfield changed things up a little bit?
Yeah, listen, it was extremely difficult because I said it then, I'll say it again. Aubrey Pleasant is a hell of a coach, and I mean that's the bottom line. The man can coach, he can teach. It just, it's one of those things where something needed to happen, and that was one of the moves made. And then we shook up the lineup as well, and we went back to the basics. AG changed up really a lot of the style at which we were playing. We were more penetrating early in the year, and we went back to hitting blocks, a little more square, not as much movement. We played a lot less coverages. You could say we were. Man, we knew exactly what we were going to be in, what we were doing. Now, you could say you become a little more predictable, but, man, at that point, we needed to just, man, everybody's on the same page, and let's line up and say, can you beat us this way? Do you have enough patience to beat us defensively? And it proved to be really good for us.
Yeah. How important was it, one thing you talked about assembling your staff, the first thing I noticed is a lot of players, is Deuce, my dude Hank, and Aaron, and all those guys. Like, you guys had this players kind of coaching staff. I know it was intentional on some level. Why?
I think when you've played this game, and particularly if you're not the most talented guy, that's played. Now, AG had a lot of talent, but AG was also undersized, Yeah. But when you've had that and you've had to to lean on all the little fundamentals, man, the technique, the things you've learned from your coaches, from other veterans that you've learned yourself, that you've tweaked with. And then when you know how to teach it and coach it, and you've been around some good coaches, I just think, man, it gives you a whole different perspective. And I think it's something that you can really, it helps you communicate with these players, man. And I think it gives you some instant credibility, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was important. Now, they're not all that way. They're not all ex-coaches, but I did think, I wanted to have a certain amount of them. But also, I've said this when I was looking and thinking about the guys that I wanted to get. These were some of the first guys I just thought of. They popped in my head. Like I think this is where I want to go with this. I think he'd be a good coach. I think these guys would mesh together. So, I think you got to have a good balance and a good mix of different guys on your staff.
Coach, you just turned 47 if the internet is
good
to be believed. Now, there's no wrong answer here. How old are you in your head?
In dog years.
How old are you in your head?
Man, that's a good question too.
Turkey bacon's full of them.
In my head, well, if I've had something to drink, I feel like I'm about 28. But when I wake up in the morning, I feel about 59. So
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you on that one. What's Dan Campbell drinking if he's going to have a nice big rock in the cup and going to have some little liquor or something? What's your drink of choice?
Listen, and I'll say that it's been a while since I've had a nice one, but probably Jack was always my Jack Daniels was something that I was always gravitated to, if you will. But no, I probably feel my age about right now. Some days a little bit older, some days a little younger. But I know this: if I don't train or I don't do something to get blood flow in my legs and I feel awful. So I'm doing good. I've got no complaints.
Coach, I feel 47 today. I was at Willie Nelson's 90th birthday festival in LA this weekend, and it was fucking awesome. I mean, there's probably a lot of Texas country stars that you're a big fan of. There were a lot of acts out there. You would have loved it.
Man, Willie, how was he?
He was awesome. I've seen Willie a bunch of times, and every time you see him, he definitely gets a little bit older. I mean, he's 90 years old. What do you expect? But it was awesome. Lucas Nelson, his son, did Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground, and then you had Lyle Lovett, you had Dwight Yoakam, you had a whole bunch of. I think George Strait was out there. It was awesome, man. You would have loved it.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Who's your favorite Texas country artist?
Man, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I would say probably Waylon Jennings. God rest his soul.
There you go.
Hey, Dan, my 7-year-old, you know what his name is?
Waylon?
Yep.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah. So back to football. I don't even know where to go from there.
Well,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're a former player. It comes through like the fire with which you coach and the communication. I think a lot of coaching and leadership is all about emotional intelligence. It's about communication, and you do that well. You can see it. But where does being a former player get you in trouble at times where you got like, okay, I got to identify this player in me. I got to tone this down. And then where do you think the strength is of being a former player?
Here's where sometimes, and I would say I had to catch myself more as a younger coach, but when it's you doing it right, and you had your coach who's pushing you, and this is what he wants out of you. He's asking you to do things that could be difficult. You don't think twice about it. You're like, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to find a way to get it done. Find a way to get it done. But I guess having been in those shoes at times, I remember thinking, man, I'm asking a lot of this guy. This is tough. Mm-hmm. This is really, really tough. And so just, man, being careful that you don't, you got to remember, continue to push the player beyond the limits that even you may think it's hard. Like, this is a very difficult job to do. And you can't just give them an out because you know how difficult it is, having done it or played it, been there in the moment. So that was something that I always felt like I had to guard against. But I think in the same vein, it's very much because you've done those things and you've been in their shoes and you understand, you remember the speed of the game or the tricks of the trade, you understand all those. I think that's where it helps to communicate to the players because you understand what they've been through. You know how, for example, their body feels in camp. You know how they feel after, you're in week 13 of the season. And look, for me, honestly, I try to be myself. I try not to coach speak. I really try to this is what's on my mind. This is how I feel. And I want them to feel my emotion. If I don't have something to say, I'm not going to say it. And rarely do I write things down and then I'm up there and I give you my speech and here's my bullet point. I'm just not that guy. I want them to know when I speak, they feel me speak. Otherwise, I shouldn't be saying anything.
I love that.
And then how does that relate to things like clock management, the devil in the details, the little things that can be game changers? You've had a young group that has really grown. Do you feel like you've had those moments on the sidelines too, that the game has slowed down for you? Because it's easy for us to watch at home and say, time out, coach.
Yeah.
But you're down there,
There's a million things
down,
going.
distance, clock, timeouts left. Has that slowed down for you? Are you seeing that better?
Absolutely, it's slowed down. And that's part of the learning curve. I mean, I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, there's a learning curve here, and I've had to learn and grow, and I'll continue to do that. I mean, there's so many things that I know I can get better at, and that I want to do better. And that's time on task. That's watching more tape. Throughout the year, every night before the games, I try to watch all these game managements from the week before and put yourself in the shoes of this. Okay, you're running this game. Well, how are you going to handle this? To your point, are you using the timeout now? Are you going to hold on to it? At what point do we start slowing the clock down? Should we challenge this play? Should we? And I think just the more times you put in your head, you put yourself in those situations, you have an answer in the moment when it comes in real time. But absolutely, it's slowing down. Now, am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect, but I certainly feel a lot more comfortable than even I did, early my first year as a rookie head coach.
All right, last question. It's a quick one for you. We have a debate here in our studio. Lemon Lime Gatorade, Coach? You got them around the facility.
I do.
Okay. What color is that Gatorade?
What color is Lemon Lime? It's piss green.
Yes! Yes. Some of these idiots think it's yellow.
No, it's piss green.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach just said he's not perfect. All right.
Hey, Coach Campbell, appreciate the time, man, and best of luck to you this year. We'll be cheering y'all on, man. Hope you come back again.
All right, I appreciate it. Pleasure, guys. Have a good one.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.